Hello, hello, hello. It is time to draw with me. I'm Danny Gregory, and we're here. We are getting ready to have some fun. We have fists full of pens in the waiting, and it's Thursday, Little Friday, as it's known by some, by me. In a time when Friday, what did I hear somebody refer to it as? Not whatever's day, but something like that. So it's like that. It's whatever's day. And it is nice to see so many people here. Mary Ann McDonald Wetler. Let's get on with it. I agree. Chris Seidel. Yes. And Elena, Cecile, Lisa. Thank you all. Thank you. Welcome to my new fantasy painting studio. You know, it's important when you're in lockdown to go to different places, however you can do it. And I'm doing it virtually. So thank you all. Thistle, hello. Renata and Pimp Mama. Interesting. Timmy, Diane, thank you all for joining me. So, here's what I wanted to do. A couple things today. First of all, I want to talk about what we're going to draw. And I think what we're going to each draw is going to be different because it's going to be personal. Okay? And what I would like us to draw, and again, this is purely optional. What matters most is that you do actually draw. But what I want you to draw is, or what I'm going to be drawing, is something that kind of represents this time. Like this time that we have been in this situation, and the coronavirus lockdown, pandemic, wave 1, 2, 3, new wave, old wave, whatever it is, situation. What is a thing that represents that? Yeah, I mean, obviously like masks and hand sanitizers and whatevs, but is there something more that means something to you that you can put in your sketchbook as a kind of a thing that says, yeah, this is this. So I'll talk about what I'm going to do in a minute, but in the meantime, why don't you think about what that could be for you, and maybe that's what you want to draw, is you want to draw something that represents this, okay? So let's think about that. Let's also think about what we did last week, which was awesome. Last week we drew Marley, the big burrito, the hairy top. What else? He has so many names. Lids, the churro. Anyway, we drew him, and we went out and gathered up as many of these as we could find. And we put together a little collection because I wanted to give it to Marley's owners, my brother and sister-in-law, and say, look at how amazingly inspiring Marley turned out to be. And so let's just have a look at that. So this is the Marley Draw With Me collection. And I just grabbed a whole bunch of these. Unfortunately, I don't have the artist's name in this document, although I know whose they are and I have them recorded somewhere else. But let's think of this as more of sort of an anonymous show, with the exception of this one because I made this one, so I know that it's me. But there are just so many different, interesting, amazing interpretations of Marley. And it was just such personality, different media that people used. I like this little sort of heraldic element. Yes. Amazing, right? Watercolors. I love that expression. And it captures his sort of burrito-like body with little tiny legs sticking out. This is like an entire page, a beautiful illustrated journal page with a fantastic likeness of me in the corner. And yes, somebody emulated my little barn thing. Little notes around. I love to see notes and writing next to a drawing. There's something just very nice and loose about that drawing too that I love. Lots of nice little marks in the fur there. Nice watercolor lines. Those little dashes of blue in there are really cool too. More blue. Blue and orange, complementary colors, bringing out some zing. Again, a nice kind of wash thing with some line added later on that really gives it some dimension and bulk. I like the nose on this one, sort of like a little rat-like, which is nice. I like rats. I love this one going right across the gutter, right across the spine. And look at how kind of chunky he is, almost like warthog-like. It's great. This is very beautiful. Very subtle, I think. I really like the lightness and handling of all these. Here's an entire little essay about the Pembroke Welsh Corgi. Possessive, bossy, and an attitude much larger than their body. It's true. At this point, Marley Falstaff, a.k.a. Kilbasa, is a little... He's a little, in his retirement years, I would say. So he's a little less bossy, less of a boss. But he has been bossy in the past. Very nice, just simple pencil drawing. Colored pencil. Nice little watercolor. Love this one. Look at those colors. I love that blue teal bar behind it. Really like makes him pop. This is a very nice watercolor. Here's a whole elaborate kind of framing around it with words. That's really great. Really, really nice. Love the caption. Nice calligraphy. Very nice. Reclining. Post-run or post-prandial. I don't think it was post-prandial, but yeah. Series. This is kind of all done in like shades of brown ink, basically. A little bit of black. I also like the way the lettering is done too. Very nice treatment with lines. This expression is great. Look at that sort of like, oh yeah. Very nice. Yes. Look at the little rubber stamp in the corner that says happy place. And this one is, I think, really interesting too. I like this sort of juxtaposition of that rubber stamp. It almost looks like, the official Marley stamp, but then the energy and the color is really great. So yeah, there we have it. I'm sure there are more out there, but those are the ones that I found relatively quickly. So it was really nice I love to see variations on a theme, don't you? To see lots and lots of different people drawing the same thing. I mean, I like to draw the same thing over and over again to just see the different ways that I do it, the different versions of me that I might find in my sketchbook. And but this one, to see like old familiar Marley, who is unfortunately not staying with us any longer, but was at the time, and just to see that celebration of him. So nice, so great. Thank you all for doing that, and thanks all for taking the trouble to share it with this hashtag daily drawing habit. I'm not sure about this hashtag daily drawing habit. It was suggested by somebody else. I like the idea of a daily drawing habit. The question is draw with me a daily drawing habit? Or should we do hashtag draw with me? I'll get back to you next week after I've spoken to some experts about what the thing is. So for this week, again, if you want to do daily drawing habit, let's use that so we can at least track things down, okay? But thank you all for doing it, and thank you for for sharing. So, okay, so as I was saying, today I was thinking we would focus on just what is something that represents this time. Have you figured that out? Have you thought of something that you want to do, something you want to draw? It might be something in front of you. It might be something that you're thinking of, but just something that like maybe has taken on new significance. Hashtag draw with me, people like. Okay, all right, let's do it then. Hashtag draw with me. Releasing it today. Hashtag draw with me. That's it. Draw with me. Okay. That's what we're going with. Somebody else might be using it, whatever. But that's what we're going with. Hashtag draw with me. Okay. The votes are all in. They seem unanimous. So, okay. As I was saying, we're all going through the same thing on some level, right? I mean, we're all reacting to it possibly differently. But, I mean, here I am in Arizona, which I'm sure you've heard has now become, all spiky again. Not again. It's, that it's suddenly become, as New York has seemed to manage to flatten the curve, Arizona, which frankly doesn't really surprise me because I've seen the behavior of people here. I've seen how rarely you saw people in masks. It's changed in the last week or two, but for a long time, you just never saw people with masks. It just didn't seem like people were really paying attention. And then we heard all these stories over the last couple of weeks from friends who live here who have teenage children, that they were having these graduation parties that are kind of amazing. That in this day and age, despite the desire to celebrate graduation, I can understand that. But we knew of people whose kids went to parties that had 200 people in them. And then we heard that at that party of 200 people, 50 or 60 of them came down with the virus. I mean, what do you expect? Anyway, I don't really want to talk about all that stuff, but I do want to talk about the fact that we need to use our art to channel our feelings about this. That's my feeling about it. We need to use our art to acknowledge it in some, not acknowledge it. There's no need, we don't need help acknowledging it. But, just to share our feelings, at least with ourselves, at least with the page. So this is the thing that I thought I would do this is a tube of toothpaste. I just finished it yesterday. Squeezed the bejesus out of it. And this is the second tube of toothpaste that I have emptied since I left home. I left home on March 10th. So today is 107 days since we left home. And now apparently we're not allowed to go back for an indeterminate amount of time, because if you're in Arizona and you go to New York or Connecticut or New Jersey, you have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. I have no idea how anybody's planning to enforce that, but we'll see. We won't plan to go back immediately anyway. We can't. So in any case, so I was thinking that this is a milestone for me. It's just a rolled up tube of toothpaste, but it somehow represents the amount of time that has passed, that I've gone through 2 tubes of toothpaste since this thing began. Again, one of those sort of innocuous things, but now it has some significance. As Proust said, I've measured out my life or my days in coffee spoons. I'm measuring out mine in toothpaste tubes. So, in any case, it's true, as Eliza says, we can't collect a coronavirus break. I would say we did, actually, because we were fortunate in that we weren't in New York at the beginning. So we managed to avoid that. And, we've actually been extremely careful since we've come here. So the rest of Arizona seems to now be taking it seriously, and that's hopefully going to change the situation. So anyway, so I thought that's what I would draw. I'm not sure what you want to draw, and I don't think there's any point you're drawing my tube of toothpaste, so I'm just going to have it sort of sitting by the side, and I'm going to switch to this camera so we can have a look at it. Here it is again. It is it's Pepsodent, which is sort of an old kind of toothpaste, but I don't know, it's one I've had. I think my mother first was the one who introduced me to it. But yeah, so I'm going to use some Sumi ink because that's my weapon of choice these days, and I'm gonna put a little bit of it into my little. I told you about these last time. This is what's it called? I forget what these little. I'll think of its name in a minute. These little dishes that I bought that are really designed not for art supplies but for hors d'oeuvres or something. It's called. Can somebody think of what it's called? Anyway, it functions as a little palette for me, and I have my jar of water here, and I have this not so great, fairly inexpensive watercolor brush. It'll do fine, and I have my tube of toothpaste. So I'm going to start just kind of just doing it, and you work in the media of your choice. There's something quite nice to me about this particular form. Somebody has mentioned that they like the idea that I'm drawing on paper. I know you anti-digital people out there. Maybe you've become more accepting of digital stuff in this day and age, or maybe not. Maybe you're looking for refuge from machines. I can understand that too. I was thinking, you know how Apple put this, what they thought was probably a helpful feature onto all their devices, which was called screen time, and it measured how much time you spent on your devices, I guess, in order to, I think it was really more for parents, but it was basically supposed to sort of shame you into not spending as much time on your devices. And that seems like sort of a cruel thing to be telling us in this day and age, because what else would we be spending time on? Our screens. But anyway, I'm spending time making art this way, and I have been doing it for I don't know, a month or so. I mean, I still draw on my iPad sometimes, but I definitely have a desire to make stuff with paper and analog media. So this is sort of a fun thing to draw, to decide what I'm going to draw with a brush. Am I going to draw all of this with a brush? We'll see. Sorry, my camera's being a bit flaky here. There we go. Thistle says, I use my iPad when I want really bright, bold colors. Maybe that's part of what it is, because I have been working monochromatically for some time now. And I've just been, this whole sketchbook, as I showed you last time, it's all just ink, black ink, India ink, and Sumi ink. Do you like to write upside down? I quite do. What's cool about writing upside down is you are less connected to the meaning of the letters and more connected to the shapes, because they lose some of their significance. I mean, I can read almost as well upside down. I'm not boasting or anything like that, but I can read almost as well upside down as I can right side up. So it doesn't really lose its meaning to me. I can see that this says Pepso. Here's an irony, a very specific one. As I mentioned, my mother is the one who I think introduced me to Pepsodent. I've been using it for a long time. My mother's nickname in our family, it's something that everybody calls her, like particularly her grandchildren. They all call her this, Pipsy. My mother's parents were German, and Pipsy is short for Pipchen, which means little doll. Now, if you knew my mother, that it would seem to be a singularly inappropriate nickname. She is not doll-like in any way, but for some reason, that is what people have called her in our family always. And then there's Pepsodent. So anyway. So what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of thinking about some of the tone. There's some tone in this. I'm also deciding like how insane do I want to get about the lettering. Probably not very much. I mean, I could indicate the lettering, but I kind of like the shape of this, and it's distracting sometimes to have too much lettering on things. So, while I'm doing this, I'm excited about this weekend because we have Ian Fenley's workshop, which you can't sign up for anymore. It's closed now, but hopefully you did sign up. I certainly think it's going to be great. Ian is he's so nice and hilarious. We were having a whole conversation a couple days ago about the workshop, and then we were talking about Manchester, where he is from, and he was telling me about how he plays the guitar, and I said to him maybe he could play the guitar during breaks at the workshop, which I think he might do. We'll see. It might anger some people who are very serious about these things and don't believe we should be wasting time on workshops where people have paid money to do things like sing songs. And when I said it would be nice, I said maybe you could sing some regional songs from Liverpool. I said are there any famous musicians from Liverpool? And we talked a bit about the Stone Roses, which are from Manchester, actually. And, we couldn't really think of anybody famous music-wise who had come from Liverpool. So, I don't know, maybe in the distant past there was. But, so we'll see what he comes up with. We'll see if he comes up with anything that, that feels appropriate for that. I don't know, maybe some of you English people can give us some suggestions. But so that is one of the things that I'm excited about, is thinking about this workshop. And also, as we are going to have this feedback session, it's going to be very cool to see all the stuff that people are going to do in response, because we're going to actually get to see people's work on Saturday night and have some comments on it, which will be pretty cool. Pretty excited about that. And This is, I'm not interested in actually writing out all these little words that are here on the bottom of this tube, because it's distracting. It's distracting to have a bunch of letters that you can read. So this is an old advertising trick. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. It's called, well, it's sometimes known as Greeking, I guess. Greeking. Because it's, sometimes when you do a layout in advertising, when you do just put together a little, what's called a comp, you indicate the type where the copy, the words are going to go, but you don't want to actually put in the real words, so you just indicate it. Sometimes with these little kind of just abstract little lines, but sometimes you use a paragraph or two of copy that says something along the lines of lorem ipsum, etc., etc. It's Latin, but for some reason it's known as Greek. And it is known as Greek, even though it's not Greek. Lorem ipsum, right? And Helene, welcome from Iowa. We're not drawing toothpaste tubes. We're drawing something that feels evocative, representative of the times we are going through. What has our experience been like? What is a thing that is true for you, not necessarily true for everybody, but is true for you as a sign of what we're going through, of the time that we've been going through. Could be something that you will look back on, that you will show your great-grandchildren and say, yes, back in the exciting, roaring 20s, boring 20s, this is what we did. Who knows? When I have grandchildren, if I ever do, great-grandchildren, they may not know what toothpaste is. They may have some whole other technology. They may be amazed that we would rub brushes on our teeth. Who knows? Probably not. So yeah. Yeah, so that's looking forward to this weekend. That's one thing. And I was kind of thinking, because as I said, it's been 109 days, that what if I just put X's? You know how like a prisoner will put X's on the, or maybe is it hashtag? Yes, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 line. All right, this will be boring for you to watch, but it's kind of interesting to me. 1, 2, 3, 4 line. 1, 2, 3, 4 line, etc. I'm just doing it in very diluted ink so that it doesn't kind of overwhelm the page, but I think it could be kind of a cool sort of background texture. And then I'll write something somewhere that explains what the hell this is for. So I'll know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's 50. I don't want to break my concentration too much while I'm doing this really tedious thing, just because I don't want to miscount. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 85, 90, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I keep miscounting. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, that's 20. Good. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the finally I have 2 more. 1, 2. So, yeah. So that's my page that represents 107 days since I left home. That's my idea. Okay. I don't know that these are hashtags. They're not hashtags. They are, they're counts, right? Like a prison does. Do they look too much like hashtags? Oh well. Maybe I'll have to write these are not hashtags. So I have this whole other page here on this side that I might write a little story about later on after I can concentrate and just say, this is what I'm thinking. This last month in particular has been it's just been increasingly complicated. I think that's the way I've been feeling. It's like increasingly complicated. Initially, it seemed like we were going down this road that suddenly was detouring onto another road, and we would just have to go down that road for a finite amount of time, and then we would arc back onto the regular road, and life would continue, essentially leaving this behind as a memory. But I think increasingly it's become evident that that's not really what's going to happen at all. That in fact, the world has changed. And, I think there's really nothing to compare it to, obviously. I mean, it's hard not to grasp and reach for cliches, but, I think that the fact that everything has changed, there are times that I respond to that by being excited by it. Tallies, thank you, Margaret. Tallies, yes. The fact that, Stephanie's leaving, okay. Anyway, where I was saying, normally times of change are times of creativity because we are forced to create whatever's going to come next. We're forced to recombine our experiences into and our knowledge into some new form, and that is happening to some extent. I mean, I think Black Lives Matter is certainly an indication of that, but there's also it's such 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional chess because we're also dealing with time, and we've been talking a lot about kids who are graduating from high school and going to college or not going to college. That's the short term, preparing to go to college or not. But the longer term is, what are you going to college for, and what are we preparing for in the future? So, I try as much as possible to stay focused on the present. That's been the thing that has given me the most relief when I've gone through trauma in the past, was just to focus on what is rather than constantly trying to conjure up versions of what will be. And drawing has helped me to do that. Drawing has helped me by focusing my mind on the present in order to draw something. And I've talked to you about that before. But, ramekins, thank you. Thank you. Ramekins, that's what those little dishes are called. But concentrating on the present also seems like being oblivious. But yet we can't concentrate on the future because we have I mean, nobody has any idea about it. So that is also problematic. I will say that I've been focusing on things at Sketchbook School. I mean, I think doing these workshops has been very helpful to me because it's given me a way of making stuff and helping people to learn, but also events that allow us to get together. And I think that that's important. Draw With Me has been important. The live drawing parties that we did were also important in that way. But we're preparing some changes at Sketchbook School that I think will be some of the biggest changes we've ever made. And part of them are in response to what we've heard from you, and part of it is what we think people will need in the future. We're trying to think about how will making art, learning about art, being part of a creative community change, or how is it changing, and how do we adapt to that? How do we make new things? Part of it is just how do we make our technology work better? So we're getting ready to do some really wholesale changes there, but also really, is taking a 6-week course by yourself really, is that the main thing that I want to be working on? Or are there other things like these workshops, like this live event, things that allow us to come together? Because I feel like that is really important. Not everybody likes it. Not everybody wants it. There are people who would just as soon do stuff on their own. So I want to accommodate those people too. But I also want to say, how do we use this technology? Technology that I think we're all have been forced to get used to using, right? How many of you never watched a live streaming event before? Never participated in video conferences with your family before? I'm sure all these are things that we're getting more and more used to. They're becoming more and more commonplace. So how do we take them and, use the fact that we're used to this stuff as a way of coming together? I mean, we were literally a week or so away from booking a hotel or choosing a destination for the next SketchCon before all this happened in late February, early March. We were planning that. Clearly, that's not going to happen. But also, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you've wanted to do, workshops you wanted to go to, experiences you wanted to have that you can't do for now. Hopefully we'll get back to those things, but for now, what do we do? So all those things are things that we're thinking about, and and also how can we continue to sort of provide a more, I would call it, authentic experience. I think that's part of what this allows us to do. This kind of live streaming thing is it allows us to have a connection that is polished enough to work well, but not so polished that it feels slick or inhuman. So just a lot of things that I'm thinking about, and trying to also, frankly, trying to find new ways to provide ideas and quote unquote inspiration in the way that I used to do on my blog. I blogged for many years, and I found that form is less and less interesting to me because I like the immediacy of this connection. But I also want to take some of these ideas that I've been having, essays that I've been writing, and give them to you in a way that will be helpful. One of the things that we've been doing is this list, Danny's List, which is, it's not a terribly imaginative name, but it's basically every Friday I send out an email essay. And I have to say the response and the dialogue that I've been having with people as a result of sending out these essays has been incredible. I try to respond as much as I can to the responses that I get to my response to the universe. So I send out a little email essay, and some people write back to me, and then I try and dialogue with them. So it's all that kind of thing has been really interesting and has given me a way of taking an idea that kind of falls into my head and then sharing it and then developing it and getting a response by having some feedback. So it's a new form again for me to be sending out little emails like this, but it's been really great. And if you want to do it, if you want to sign up for it, just go to this place. It's free. Sign up for it, and I'll send you something tomorrow. So I think just having more of a chance. I feel like I've gone in and out of sort of dialogue with you over the years. There have been times that I've been completely kind of vanished, I think, or not posting anything, not writing anything, apparently kind of disappeared from the scene. I've had a lot of people to say to me at various points, like, well, we assumed that you were gone and may never come back. And I can understand that. I'm always busy, always doing stuff, but sometimes it's apparent and sometimes it isn't. And, you know, I want to have more opportunities to do that. So that's in part of what is in my thinking these days. So let's see. Becky says, I'm so touched by the Danny's List essays. Feels like a personal connection that is so nice during these isolated times. Thank you, Becky. You know, I do try and reflect. I don't write about the virus and quarantine and things like that particularly. It's really more about just whatever is on my mind, or has been on my mind. And you know, this is an opportunity for that. So I'm seeing lots of very nice comments, like this from Trix, saying how important Sketchbook School has been. And you know, I think that it's incredibly rewarding to make stuff and to have a sense that you're actually making a difference to people. So that's really nice. And you know, I hope to just find new ways of doing that. So, you know, I think that there is a new form that we're going to be testing and then releasing in the next few months, I think, that will allow us to engage more intensely with each other. What I mean by that is the normal way that I've worked is I write a book, let's say, and it goes to a publisher, and then hopefully you buy it or take it out from the library and read it, and then maybe you send me an email, but most of the time you just have the book and it's of some use to you. But there's no connection, there's no back and forth. Sketchbook School, we make courses, and there's been some opportunity for conversation around those courses. But I again feel like I want to have a more feedback to you and from you, and also more of an opportunity to intersect with each other over time. I mean, it's amazing how many people I've heard from, even in the last month, who said, oh, I've been reading your stuff for many, many years and I've never written to you. And I'm like, well, thanks for stepping out of the shadows. I love to hear from people who have read my stuff, and that's how I can, you know what to do in the future, is by knowing what is valuable and what could be changed, what could be fixed. But beyond that, it's also the opportunity, I think, to see people who are on an ongoing journey, creative journey, and to be able to say, you've been doing this, and here's a little bit of feedback about what you've been doing, but what about going over here and trying this next? So kind of a progression, an ongoing connection, so that so we can just get deeper. Because I know that when I first started to draw, there were 2 or 3 friends that I made who were a little bit further down the road than I was, and I was following in their footsteps, and I was seeing what they were doing, and they were talking to me about what I was doing, and those conversations and that seeing that the changes and the things that they were going through were so important to me. They made such a difference in terms of how enthusiastic I was, what risks I was willing to take, and also just my general sense of like where this could go, you know. So, trying to figure it out, and to some extent we've done that with Sketchbook School, with things like the Schoolyard, where it's like bringing a bunch of people together, not just on Facebook, but in our own sort of community, is done a fair amount of that. I think people having that connection and being able to see what each other did, or even things like today, sharing all those drawings of Marley. I think it's so important to not just connect with an artist who you like, but also to have the sense of what are other people at all different levels of experience also doing, right? So this is a rather opaque and long-winded way of telling you that we're thinking about a lot of these things, and trying to make them available to you soon. So expect changes. I think expect the spirit to be the same, but expect the ways in which we engage to expand. I'll leave it at that. I'll tell you more as I progress. Yes, so Myrna has stepped out of the shadows. Excellent. There's some interesting word choices in this message. I'm not quite sure what going deeper. Anyway, I'm glad to see you. And Thistle's concerned about money. I understand that. I'm always aware of that. I mean, we obviously need to make money in order to do the things that we do. And making money means that we can spend more time and concentrate on them more. But I also am always aware that that's not necessarily, I don't want to exclude people because of that. So we'll figure it out. So yes, Sarah says community and belonging with no judgment is what I love about Sketchbook Skool. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think being surrounded by people, but I think what I'm also interested in those is there have been people who have said to me, I've been involved with Sketchbook Skool for a while, but I'm concerned that I don't know if I'm making progress. And I think having that conversation would be great, because how do you know if you're making progress, and how do you make progress, and what does progress even mean, and what are the ways in which you can do it? So I have a lot of ideas about that I would want to talk to you about. So yes, we're thinking about that. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through some of your very nice comments to see if there's anything else I could say. Cynthia says we need something new. It's true. I mean, I've been frustrated by the fact that, for years we went out and made courses. I traveled the world. We went from Sydney to Barcelona, across the United States, even filmed a course across India, lots of different places, and that's just impossible to do now, and we don't know how for long it will be impossible. The workshops have been a way of bringing you some fresh experiences, but I have other ideas for ways that we can do it too. Hopefully it will mean that you'll be okay with spending more time with me, because I'm going to probably be the epicenter of a lot of this stuff. But yeah, we'll see. Deb was disappointed with the last workshop because she couldn't afford the extra for the feedback. Yeah, I mean, we try to keep it affordable. I think it was $30, for that. So, again, what is the balance? We need to. We try to do as many things as we can with no money involved, like this. But the more we have to work with, the more things we can do. So let's always leave it at that. It's so unpleasant, unsavory to talk about money, isn't it? So Erin primarily participates in free stuff, and that's good. We want you to. We want you to come to all the free things that we do, and that's fine. If that's all you can afford to do, that's fine. I think Art Bootcamp was a particularly good value. We priced it really inexpensively so that people could take it, because we think building those foundations is really important. And even if you do nothing else, Art Bootcamp is a good way to immerse yourself and to really build skills that you can use in other ways. But I think it also comes down to a point of saying to yourself, where are the places that you want to spend money? And I think particularly as we're entering into harder economic times, those are choices we have to make even more seriously. And certainly we appreciate that too. So yes, yes, I know. I appreciate, Deb, the sacrifices that you've had to make. And we also, I mean, I think we gave out courses to essential workers for free, and I think we gave away over 1,000 of those. So that was a nice thing to be able to do for free. Thistle says she feels guilty for not supporting Sketchbook Skool. Yes. Well, I certainly don't want you to make important sacrifices for us. That would be crazy. But thanks anyway for joining us, Ken. Thank you for being part of our community too. And all right, this has been a contemplative kind of discussion. Maybe this Pepsodent inspired it. Cleansing. We've gargled and rinsed out some of our thoughts. I'm gonna have a bit more coffee. It's been. I mean, it's the thing that we did with first responders, and it wasn't just first responders. It was essential workers too. I kind of assumed that first responders were too busy, but it was just nice to. I know how important and therapeutic making art can be, and if we could take people who were under extreme stress and give them this as a tool, that would be really good. Mary Lou, you can post it anywhere you want. You can post it on Schoolyard. You can post it on social media, and if you do, please just add the hashtag #DrawWithMe. Hashtag #DrawWithMe. That's what we decided as a group today that we would do. Hashtag #DrawWithMe. Jen says, I find that I don't see improvements immediately after taking a class or workshop, but only after doing the assignments again and again and again. Me too. Like, for instance, the drawing that I was doing today was very much inspired by Onmar's workshop a month ago, almost 6 weeks ago. Seeing her draw with watercolor is something that I've gone back to and done more and more, and it's become second nature. I think a lot of times we think, if I take a class, then I will know how to do something. But of course you don't. You simply know. It's, again, my favorite analogy is to driving. You can sit down and read the guidebook, the handbook, before you take your learner's test. You can take driving lessons, but you're not going to know how to drive until you've done it for a while. You know how to drive, but your body doesn't know how to drive. And similarly with drawing, you just have to find opportunities to apply these lessons. So it's like a big frozen pie that's sitting in the freezer, and you pull it out, and you need time for it to thaw. You need time for all of that stuff to kind of become room temperature, I guess I'm hungry, for it all to be, available to you intuitively, right? So it's not just mentally that you understand the lesson that you learned, but that it becomes part of your wiring, So I think that's a key thing that happens. So just final thought about money in our future. There are a lot of places that you can take art lessons. Many of them are big platforms, big corporations that aggregate lots and lots of lessons from lots and lots of people. And they are heavily funded by venture capitalists. They come and they go. In fact, some of you may know that Blueprint, which was a huge thing, Blueprint had been Craftsy before that. Just AT&T bought them? No, NBC Universal bought them. And then about a month ago, they just went out, closed shop. All these people who had lifetime access to their materials that they had paid for, gone. So we're just a very small number of people, and so we end up doing all these things ourselves. So that means that it's just different. We're the equivalent of like the local store. We're not the big company. So it would be nice to have thousands of people out there working for us, and driving me around in the corporate jet and sharpening my pencils for me, and that kind of thing. But I'm just here in my virtual studio, my virtual painting studio, with you. So anyway, thanks so much. Yes, Cynthia says she lost a bunch of classes. Yeah, That's a shame. I mean, I think that they're trying to make it up and allow people to download them, but yeah, that really shook up the art instruction world. So anyway, I don't really have anything else to say, which for me is unusual, as you know. But yeah, I'm just going to go and I've squeezed all I can out of this toothpaste tube. This Pepsodent has done its job. It can now go in the trash, and I can finish working on my sketchbook page. Thanks very much for joining me today, and I will see you again next Thursday, and we will talk some more, but more importantly, draw some more. And in the meantime, I hope you will do some more drawings. I look forward to seeing some of you at the workshop day after tomorrow. It's going to be really, really cool. And let's carry on. Be well, stay safe, do all the things you're supposed to do, and make one of them be making art. Hey, maybe that's my sign-off kind of slogan. Do all the things you're supposed to do, and make sure that one of them is making art. Registered trademark. Bye. I've been in this room for too long. I've got to paint these walls. I mean, come on. This place is a mess.